Have you ever thought about how many stories in your family have to do with taking risks? Or how many books on your bookshelf might really be about risk takers? I just randomly grabbed books off my shelf to think about. Here's a book on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and on John McCain, a war hero, and Joan of Arc. This is a wonderful book on Joan of Arc, and this is a book about protecting ourselves from risk by one of my heroes in that field, Gavin de Becker. And here's a book on martial arts, which of course is kind of always about risk in some ways. Here's a favorite book of mine, Jackie Robinson, An Intimate Portrait. That's on my bookshelf. I bet on your bookshelf you have a bunch of books that probably include quite a few people who took big risks for goodness sake. This Sunday in First United Methodist Church in Sacramento, we're going to be looking at the book of Esther. It's not a book I love. The end of the book of Esther really breaks my heart. But the middle, between chapter 3 and chapter 4, you see this woman who knows that if she approaches the king without being called, because back then that was the standard, the king had to want you and request you. You didn't just walk in. If she approached the king, she could die. But if she didn't, thousands and thousands and thousands of Jewish people would have died. So she essentially says, "Here I go." To use a phrase from a sad moment in our American history, let's roll. And she goes off to take the risks that heal and protect the Jewish community. Rest of the story bothers me, but that moment, and in that moment, Mordecai, her uncle, says, maybe it was for such a time as this that you were put in the position you are. Not to say that everything that ever happens is plotted by God. I think that might be theologically errant. But if we are able to see that wherever we are is a place that God will work and can work, even with the risks, that we can be a part of God's healing, that where we are right now, where you are right now, is a part of God's capacity to do good for the world, even if it takes risks. It's a good way to think. Esther inspires me in that sense. You do too, because I know you've taken risks, and you will, for the sake of goodness, for the sake of healing. God bless you with every one of those choices, and I respect you because you are love first.